Welcome to this explainer. We often think of North Korea as the ultimate hermit kingdom, right? Sealed borders, a completely isolated economy. But today, we're going to impartially map out an unprecedented shadow alliance that's currently forming between Russia and North Korea. For the first time since 1953, Pyongyang has actually sent its own soldiers to fight in someone else's war. So we're going to look at the hard data behind this sweeping new partnership. No ideology here, just a raw, calculated transaction. Let's dive right into the price of this new axis.
Okay, let's start with a staggering number. By late 2024, anywhere from 11,000 to 15,000 North Korean troops were deployed thousands of miles away to the Kursk region in Russia. This is a massive milestone. It marks the very first time foreign ground troops have fought inside Russia during this entire conflict. And honestly, the first time North Korean soldiers have fought outside their own peninsula in 70 years. They are even being led by General Kim Jong Un, that's the third-ranking figure in their entire military, basically acting as a direct proxy to harvest modern combat lessons.
So that leads us right to the central mystery we're unraveling today. Why? Why is this famously isolated nation suddenly trading the blood of its citizens in a foreign conflict? Well, it's certainly not out of pure solidarity. It's for a price. And as you'll see, that price is being paid in some of the most dangerous, highly guarded military-industrial technology on the planet.
To really understand this, let's jump right into Section 1, a historic new pact, focusing on the 2024 Comprehensive Strategic Partnership. Now, when Vladimir Putin traveled to Pyongyang back in June 2024 to sign this mutual defense treaty, a lot of people just dismissed it as totally symbolic. But actually, history tells a much darker story. Take a look at 1990 on this timeline. A collapsing Soviet Union essentially abandoned Pyongyang overnight, choosing to normalize relations with South Korea for roughly $1 billion in cash. Then, jump to 2000, and Putin himself signs a treaty that deliberately drops the mutual defense clause entirely. So, this sweeping new 2024 pact, it's built on a foundation of profound historical mistrust. It's literally the first binding military commitment between them in over 60 years.
Which brings us to Section 2. The cost and blood. We're going to look at casualties, cover-ups, and forced labor.
To really grasp the weight of this pact, we have to look at the grim, immediate cost North Korea is paying. Officially, Pyongyang claims just 350 dead, but the reality? It's a massive cover-up. Independent intelligence estimates reveal a staggering 6,000 to 7,000 casualties. Think about that. That's more than a third of their deployed troops either killed or wounded. And it gets darker. Former soldiers report that these troops are essentially ordered to die rather than surrender. Why? Because if they're captured alive, their families back home face execution. And to hide this massive scale of loss, the regime handles compensation entirely off the books, handing out local grocery distributions instead of official notifications.
But, the soldiers on the front lines aren't the only ones paying the price. There's the secondary, much quieter supply chain happening. Right now, roughly 100,000 North Korean forced laborers are working abroad, increasingly on Russian construction sites. We're talking about workers with confiscated passports pulling 400-hour months. The state literally deducts up to 85% of their pay as a quote-unquote loyalty quota. A worker might take home, maybe $10 a month, but for the regime, that nets an estimated $500 million annually. It's an entirely separate revenue stream just fueling their economy.
All right, let's look at what they're getting in return in Section 3, the high-tech payout. This is arguably the most consequential tech exchange of the decade.
See, cash was never really the ultimate prize for Kim Jong Un. To truly understand the payout, we have to look at the sheer scale of what North Korea provided first. Intelligence has tracked at least 112 cargo voyages moving military hardware across the water into Russia. That is an immense logistical pipeline, and it's operating completely in the shadows.
And the volume of munitions they're supplying? It's just staggering. We're talking 8 to 12 million shells, accounting for up to 40% of Russia's fire at times, plus dozens of ballistic missiles. But here's where the deadly technology exchange really kicks in. North Korean ballistic missiles used to have a massive air radius of about half a kilometer. Well, thanks to Russian engineers actually assisting them on a live battlefield, that air radius shrank to just 50 to 100 meters. These are two completely isolated arms industries, literally trading engineering fixes in real time.
So, what exactly did thousands of casualties buy? Let's quickly tick through this astonishing high-tech payout. First, after 2 failed launches, Russian assistance finally helped North Korea get their first reconnaissance satellite into orbit. Second, at least one advanced Russian Panzer air defense system is now on actual combat duty guarding Pyongyang itself. And third, intelligence reports that Russia is directly transferring the production capability for Shahed attack drones right into North Korean factories. Pretty wild, right?
But honestly, the most chilling reveal is detailed in this assessment from South Korean officials. North Korea received actual stripped components for a nuclear-powered submarine. We're talking a reactor, a turbine, a cooling system, taken right out of decommissioned Russian vessels to support North Korea's nuclear ballistic missile submarine program. I mean, this is a massive leap in technology that destabilizes global security overnight. You definitely don't get this from a food aid shipment. This is a prize that was paid for in blood.
Now, let's pivot to a completely different battlefield in Section 4, the Digital Alliance, the quiet cyber twin operating in the shadows. Because you see, this alliance isn't just happening in the trenches or in weapon factories, it's happening right on our networks. Security researchers have uncovered hard evidence of unprecedented cyber collaboration. Russian state hackers, specifically the FSB-linked Gamardon group, and North Korea's infamous Lazarus group are sharing the exact same cyber attack infrastructure. It's crazy. One group used a command and control server, and literally 4 days later, that identical machine was serving the other group's malware. They are effectively merging North Korea's world-class crypto laundering expertise with top-tier Russian attack infrastructure.
Of course, an operation this large requires some serious political cover. Russia protected this trade by vetoing a crucial UN monitoring panel, effectively blinding independent oversight. But this rapidly merging cyber and military threat, it's triggered a massive global reaction. It has forced the US, Japan, and South Korea into an urgent, unified diplomatic and military response. For the first time, Japan is fitting destroyers with Tomahawk missiles, South Korea is spiking its defense budget, and these nations are now treating this as a single, connected threat on the world stage.
Okay, let's bring this all together in Section 5, the final ledger, a transaction built on mistrust.
So, we've seen the history, the casualties, and the technology. Let's look at the final, cold accounting on this ledger. North Korea gave bodies, millions of shells, and cheap disposable labor. In return, they got everything from food to satellite technology, the literal components of a nuclear submarine, and a vastly expanded cyber arsenal. The Institute for National Security Strategy actually values this cooperation at up to $14.4 billion. That is nearly North Korea's entire annual economic output. It is, without a doubt, the most consequential arms and technology trade of the decade.
And the thing is, we can already see this high-tech exchange in action. Back in July 2024, Kim Jong Un personally oversaw combat trials aboard a new Russian-assisted destroyer. Just compare these two items. You have Russia's Zircon hypersonic weapon and then the nearly identical Kangkan cruise missile that North Korea just tested. This alliance is no longer hidden in secret cargo manifests. It is literally being fired off the deck of a warship using borrowed Russian design, being watched by the very man who traded his own soldiers to get it. I'm going to leave you with this final thought, straight from the analysts who study this geopolitics deeply. Remember that timeline from earlier? Well, history tells us that in 1990, Russia walked away the very second it stopped being useful. So here's the question we all need to be asking. How exactly will global security adapt to a highly dangerous, highly transactional access that is built entirely on historical mistrust, yet remains incredibly profitable for both sides right now? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and as always, keep questioning the data.